over northern France from wind. It's likely also to cause impacts across southern parts and central parts of the UK. At first, it will be rain and wind into the southwest, and for parts of Wales that will be an issue, with the strongest winds expected across Cornwall. Amber warning because of the risk of 80 to 90 mile-per-hour wind gusts. But as it moves across the country Thursday night and into Friday, it will leave behind some deep snow across parts of Wales, particularly mid-Wales, the Midlands up towards the Peak District. Then it clears, but it's going to be cold, wet and windy in the east through the day on Friday. Brighter skies on Saturday, plenty of sunshine. Another low turns up on Sunday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed boil.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A1 is partially blocked between Grants House and Houndswood after a road traffic incident. In Powys, the A458 is affected in both directions in Welshpool, with an incident on Church Street at the Cross and local diversions in place. On the M6 southbound, the entry slip at junction 14 in Staffordshire is shut after an overturned vehicle. On the A2 eastbound at the junction with the M25 in Kent, one of 3 lanes is closed and delays are around 10 minutes. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways is disrupted between Amersham and Harrow-on-the-Hill, and cross-country between Edinburgh and Aberdeen. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's a brand new year and we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date.
£85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
And we've come to the Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening. The big international news keeps coming, with now 2 oil tankers seized and one of them with British assets being used. We'll discuss and debate that with, among others, John Bolton, who'll be with us in the studio tonight. We'll have a look at what was said by the police boss from the West Midlands yesterday and why I think he should be gotten rid of immediately. And our pubs face yet another threat, a proposed change to the drink drive laws that I think will be the death knell of every rural pub in the country. But before that, and much more, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Nigel, thank you, and a very good evening to you. Just gone 7 o'clock, the top story tonight. The UK has confirmed it supported a US operation to seize a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic, deploying RAF aircraft and naval assets. Defence Secretary John Healey said that British forces showed skill and professionalism in intercepting the vessel, part of what he called a crackdown on sanctions evasion by so-called Russian shadow fleet. The tanker was seized as it travelled between Iceland and Scotland, with RAF surveillance aircraft and the Royal Navy's support ship Typhus involved in that operation. The Ministry of Defence says the action targets networks fuelling conflict and instability, but Moscow claims international maritime law may have been breached, raising tensions. In other news, Sir Keir Starmer says MPs will be given a vote on whether British troops are deployed to Ukraine. That's if a peace deal with Russia is agreed. The Prime Minister says the move would follow recent practice after the UK, France and Ukraine signed a declaration of intent to deploy forces to help police any future settlement. But the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says questions remain over the scale and the risks of any deployment.
No Prime Minister, Labour or Conservative, has failed to make a statement to the House in person after committing to the deployment of British troops. His comments about making a statement in due course, quite frankly, are not good enough. It shows a fundamental lack of respect for all of us here.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer insisted earlier that Britain must be ready to play its part and told MPs in the Commons that any deployment would focus on deterrence, protecting key military hubs and preventing further Russian aggression.
If there were to be deployment, there would have to be a legal instrument. Mr. Speaker, deployment would only be after a ceasefire to support Ukraine's capabilities, to conduct deterrent operations and to construct and protect military hubs. Mr. Speaker, there will be a statement to the House at the earliest opportunity. If there were a decision to deploy under the agreement that was signed yesterday, then I would put that matter to this House for a debate beforehand and for a vote on that deployment. That is consistent with recent practice, and I'll adhere to that.
Donald Trump has doubled down on his claim that the United States needs Greenland, refusing to rule out the use of military force to take control of the territory. The US president says annexing the self-governing island is a matter of national security, insisting he's very serious about the plan. European leaders, though, and Greenland's Prime Minister have pushed back sharply, with former UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace warning that any attack would signal the demise of a large part of NATO. Mr. Trump has long voiced his ambition to bring Greenland under US control, reigniting tensions among Western allies. Here, a migrant has become the first person charged under a new endangerment at sea offence introduced to crack down on dangerous small boat crossings. The charge follows the launch of the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Act, which makes it a crime to put lives at risk during channel crossings and could carry a sentence of up to 6 years in prison. The suspect was arrested after the first small boat crossing of the year so far, carrying 48 people from northern France. Ministers say the new powers will help to disrupt and to dismantle people smuggling gangs, as the National Crime Agency's also confirmed its former top target has been jailed. Nigel Farage has unveiled Layla Cunningham as Reform UK's candidate to challenge Sadiq Khan in the next London mayoral election. The Reform UK leader made the announcement at a central London press conference today, standing beneath banners declaring London needs reform. Mr Farage called May's local and devolved elections the single most significant set of electoral tests before the next national vote. He also confirmed Reform UK will reveal its new Scottish leader at a press conference in Edinburgh next week. And former Tottenham and England footballer Martin Shivers has died at the age of 80. One of Spurs' greatest ever goal scorers, he played more than 400 games for the team and won 24 caps for England. A statement from Tottenham says it is with immense sadness that we announce the passing of our legendary former striker, Martin Shivers. Those are the latest headlines. Do stay with us. We are expecting a statement from the Defence Secretary John Healey later this hour. We'll bring that to you. For now, though, let's head back to Nigel.
Good evening. Well, these have been a fairly extraordinary few weeks. Events are happening on the world stage, the likes of which we simply have not seen in our lifetimes. One of the first big shocks was the first tanker that the Americans took off the South American coast. And do you remember this clip that they released of it?
Call it a comeback. I've been here for years. I'm rocking my peers, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom, explosion.
I didn't know quite what to make of that a couple of weeks ago, but there you are. Well, it's happened again today, but there's a difference. 2 tankers have been seized, and be in no doubt that this route, this trade route between Venezuela and Russia, what is happening will not be pleasing Mr. Putin in one little bit. The significance of the 2 that have been taken today is that, and we'll see some of the footage of what happened earlier on today, is that this time there is direct British involvement. Now, we're expecting a statement at some point in the next hour from Defence Secretary John Healey in the House of Commons. But basically, they've been using our bases. We don't know which ones. We suspect ones in Scotland for spy planes, assistance. They also suggest some naval assets have been used as well. So how do we feel? How do you feel at home about the UK being at least indirectly involved in all of this? Well, I'm joined in the studio by Kwasi Kwarteng, former Conservative Chancellor of the Exchequer, and Sir Nick Harvey, former Liberal Democrat Member of Parliament, and significantly, I think, for this chat, former Armed Forces Minister. Welcome, gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
What do you make of this, Nick? Is this, I mean, kind of if the Americans say, can we do something, we generally say yes.
We do, and I think in this situation it's justified. I think most people in the UK feel very committed to Ukraine, and there's no doubt that Russia has sustained its invasion of Ukraine through the revenues it's been getting from oil, and I think direct action to interrupt that is entirely justifiable, and I wish Donald Trump would show similar determination to interrupt more of what the Russians are doing, but this is better than nothing, and all to the good.
And isn't the fall of Maduro, again, bad news for Putin? He doesn't have that many friends around the world. He's lost a very significant ally.
Yes, I think so, but who knows what's going to come next in Venezuela. I hear Donald Trump saying, I'm now in charge of Venezuela, and yet there are militias out on the street locking people away who express any sort of pro-American or anti-Maduro sentiment. So I think it's a slightly qualified control.
What comes next, goodness knows?
That's the big question. And you'll remember we were in Parliament together. We had votes on Syria, we had votes on Libya. And each time we voted on those things, we didn't really know what the outcome would be. No. And of course, the outcome, sort of surprised everybody. Maybe it shouldn't have done. But things happened that we couldn't foresee. So I think it's very important that viewers realise that what is happening is absolutely extraordinary.
Yes.
I mean, you have to go back really to the 80s with Noriega and then the invasion of Grenada to see anything like this.
Yes, it's not completely unknown for the Americans to intervene.
But the way in which he's done it, and the statements he's made, and then the videos with the rap music or whatever it is, as the kind of sound.
That was quite extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, and he's essentially taken what we grew up with as the global rule book, the rule book for global order.
Out of the window.
And he's ripped it up.
He has. Well, I tell you what we'll do, folks. We're very honoured because we're going to have, later on in this hour, with us, live in the studio, Ambassador John Bolton, former, of course, National Security Advisor to Donald Trump in his first term. So we'll pick this up a little bit later on, and we might even talk about Greenland just a little bit as well. Now, I have to say, the appearance yesterday in the House of Commons of the boss of the West Midlands Police was truly extraordinary. You remember the story. The Israeli football team were coming to play Aston Villa. Maccabi Tel Aviv. Stories had circulated that they'd caused terrible violence in the Netherlands at a previous game. They were full of extremists. They were yobbos. And the police were lobbied very heavily by independent pro-Gaza MPs and others. And we were told that basically the fans were banned because the Maccabi supporters were very, very violent. This simply wasn't true. And we found this clip of what was happening in parts of Birmingham just before the decision to ban the fans. Have a look at this. case you were confused, that was Birmingham, England. Yes, that's right. That was what was happening in our second city. And the police buckled. Ultimately, because what they really feared was sectarian attacks on the Jewish visiting fans, and that was the truth of it. Now, yesterday in the House of Commons, Craig Guilford, the Chief Constable, appeared, and he was asked this question by Labour MP Peter Prinsley.
Why are we only hearing about this now? Why is it that a report has come at lunchtime today from the Times newspaper that you had information on the 5th of September that there were likely to be vigilante groups within the West Midlands community itself who were planning to take action against the Maccabi fans? How is it that this committee is just hearing this for the first time?
Well, I think this is the first time specifically that you've asked for that detail. Well, that's what we tried. That's what we tried to get across.
Absolutely outrageous.
Oh, so the truth comes out now because it's the first time that Craig Guilford has been asked about it. Frankly, it is totally unbelievable at every level, and the West Midlands Police gave in to sectarian bullying. I cannot think of any other way to describe it, and I think this man should go. Kwasi, what say you?
So look, I've been on select committees, I've been interviewed by select committees, and I think that he was not very practiced in the way that they operate. I was surprised that if he thought there was a public order issue, he should have been very upfront about it. I mean, no one, I think, would have questioned him if he said, look, we've got fans from Israel, and we've got a very, motivated and emotionally engaged Palestinian Muslim community, and this could be a problem.
Isn't the law to protect everybody who's behaving legally and sensibly and properly and attending a sports event?
No, but a police officer, a chief superintendent, a man in responsibility, does have a wider responsibility to, public order. And I think on those grounds, he could have said, look, this isn't a good idea.
Well, it all feels...
But the reasons he gave, I thought, were pathetic.
It all feels, Nick, a bit one-sided to me, this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a mistake to ban the fans from coming if, as Kwasi says, if he genuinely thought that they were incapable of protecting those fans, he should have made a clean breast and have said so.
Well, that's right.
But people aren't thanked if they say, I don't have adequate resources to do something. But if that's honestly what it was, he should have said...
If in 21st century Britain, we don't have the resources to protect innocent people going to a sporting event, look, we're in quite big trouble, aren't we?
You're making a fair point, but it's,
I'm making it quite strongly.
You've got the biggest Muslim population in Britain, in Birmingham.
Oh, so we changed the law.
And you've got people who are very, very militant and very...
Kwasi, I feel
You've also got people coming from Israel. But you've got to be pragmatic.
I'm going to cross now.
If there's an issue, the police guy has to deal with it.
I'm going to cross now to our newsreader, Sam Francis, who will tell us exactly what John Healey is saying in the House of Commons live right now.
Nigel, thank you. Yes, that's right. Let's take you live now to scenes inside the House of Commons where the Defence Secretary John Healey is giving a statement following news of the UK supporting US operations.
December, after which the US Coast Guard vessel Monroe pursued the ship across the Atlantic. This is a sanctioned, stateless vessel which carries a long history of nefarious activity and shares close links with both Iran and Russia. Following a request from the US, I authorised the use of UK bases and the deployment of Royal Navy and RAF assets to support the operation, including airborne surveillance and the RFA ship Tide Force. This was a US operation. No UK personnel took part in the boarding. And I can update the House, Mr. Speaker, the operation is ongoing, but the Bella One is now under the control of US forces who demonstrated immense courage and professionalism in dangerous and deteriorating Atlantic Sea conditions. A stateless vessel, Mr. Speaker, may be lawfully intercepted and subjected to the law of the interdicting state. The US's enforcement action was based upon counter-Iran sanctions aimed at stopping Iran from fueling instability through the profits of illegal oil sales. the UK supported this action to achieve three objectives. First, to enforce counter-Iran sanctions. Second, to tackle the global security threat posed by expanding shadowy maritime activity. And third, to reinforce British homeland defence and security in this era of rising threats. Mr. Speaker, let me expand. First, in 2024, this vessel was sanctioned by the US and subjected to a seizure warrant for illegally transporting Iranian oil. It reflagged 5 times in the last 5 years and was falsely flying the Guyana ensign when it was intercepted by the US. Over a 4-year period, reports suggest that this vessel moved some 7.3 million barrels of Iranian crude oil, the proceeds of which have used to finance terrorism, threat, and instability across the world. And the Iranian regime continues to export violence across the region through its proxies and its partners, including Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iraqi militias. It maintains support for Russia by supplying Putin with weapons for his brutal invasion of Ukraine, including the Shahid mass drones and missiles which target and kill Ukrainian civilians. And it is telling, of course, that this vessel, in an attempt to evade the seizure warrant, changed its name and tried to adopt the Russian flag. Second, Mr. Speaker, the UK also supported this military operation to counter the expanding global security threat. The vessel is part of an increasing web of shadow shipping that fuels and funds instability across the world, that undermines global trade, and that threatens our national security. We know Russia operates a vast shadow fleet of its own to bankroll its illegal invasion of Ukraine. And last year, it's estimated that Russia sold $100 billion worth of sanctioned oil, money directly funding attacks on Ukrainian citizens, such as the onslaught during Christmas, involving 600 missiles and drones, which killed at least 3 people. We owe it to the Ukrainians to step up action on these shadow operations, and we are. This is why we're deterring, we're disrupting, we're degrading the Russian shadow fleet as a priority for this government. And to date, we've imposed sanctions on 544 vessels. According to estimates, sanctions against the shadow fleet by the UK and our partners have forced 200 ships off the seas, almost half of the Russia shadow fleet's overall capacity. While Russia's critical oil revenues are now down 27% compared to October in 2024. This is the lowest since the start of its full-scale invasion. So let me speak plainly, Mr. Speaker. The UK will not stand by as malign activity increases on the high seas, and alongside our allies, we are stepping up our response against shadow vessels, and we will continue to do so. Third, Mr. Speaker, this is not just about international security, but about the threats to British national security too. Iran presents not only a persistent danger to security in the Middle East, but to us here in the UK. It poses a significant espionage threat, it sustains an aggressive cyber attack campaign against us, and as our own House of Commons Intelligence Security Committee reported, since 2022, the Iranian regime has plotted at least 15 assassination or kidnap attempts on British soil. Meanwhile, more widely across Europe, we're seeing a pattern of flagrant maritime activity coordinated by Russia. So I applaud and welcome the fact that the Finnish authorities seized a Russian shadow vessel suspected of damaging a communications cable under the Gulf of Finland last week. And we've exposed the Russian spy ship Yantar operating in our waters, surveying our undersea cables. And of course, by assisting our US allies in taking this ship off the seas, we are protecting the British people and our nation. So this is a stark reminder that our world is changing, it is less predictable and more dangerous. And this operation and the Shadow Fleet show the global links between the security threats faced by the UK and its allies. And the Shadow Fleet itself is vital to Putin's ongoing illegal invasion and war in Ukraine, which brings me on to the second topic in this single statement. Because next month, we enter the 5th year of Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Yet the Ukrainian people still fight with huge courage and defiance, the military and civilian alike. And I'm proud to say that this House remains united for Ukraine, that Britain remains united for Ukraine. Yeah. We know that if Putin prevails, he won't stop at Ukraine. And we know that a secure Europe depends on a strong, sovereign Ukraine. And I'm also proud of the UK's leadership on Ukraine. It started under the last government and stepped up under this government. So now we, the UK, lead the 50-nation-strong Ukraine Defence Contact Group alongside Germany and secured £50 billion worth in military aid pledges last year. And we, with France, lead the Coalition of the Willing, undertaking detailed military planning to help secure peace for the long term when a deal is agreed. And I say to this House, let's make 2026 the year that peace is not only possible, but the year that peace is achieved. And this government is leading that push for peace. This government is building the New Deal for European security. And that's why in Paris yesterday, Mr. Speaker, at what was the largest yet meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, with 39 nations, my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, alongside President Macron and President Zelensky, signed a declaration of intent. And as the Prime Minister said, the purpose of the Coalition of the Willing is to help deliver a peace that can last and to work with the US to guarantee Ukraine's security for the long term. This work is now more advanced than ever, he said. And yesterday's declaration advances that work significantly. It confirms that the UK and France will take a leading role, first in using military, economic and diplomatic instruments to ensure the conclusion of a peace agreement. Second, in supporting the development of Ukraine's defence capabilities. And third, in commanding a multinational force for Ukraine, which plans to deploy to Ukraine after a ceasefire has been agreed. Mr. Speaker, the MFU plans to deploy units from nations in the Coalition of the Willing to carry out defence and deterrence operations in the air, on the land and at sea, to conduct training, planning, recovery and regeneration of Ukrainian forces. The UK and France will also create military hubs to support this work across the country and to build protected facilities within Ukraine for weapons and equipment. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister said today, if there were a decision to deploy under this agreement that was signed yesterday, that matter will be brought to the House for debate beforehand and for a vote on that deployment. So yesterday, at this largest meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, we agreed further significant steps, including the signing of a joint declaration. We will also participate in US-led monitoring and verification of any ceasefire. We will support the long-term provision of armaments for Ukraine's defence.
Well, just hearing there from the Defence Secretary John Healey on the UK's backing of a US operation to seize a Russian-flagged oil tanker, part of Putin's so-called Shadow Fleet. You can, of course, scan the QR code there on your screen to continue watching that on GB News 2. For now, though, for all the reaction, let's go back to Nigel in Westminster.
Describe these commitments.
Sam Francis, thank you. Little doubt in my mind that John Healey, of all the front bench, actually delivers messages in the clearest and crispest way. He's actually very, very good.
I thought it was a very effective statement.
Yes. Let's just take that in two parts. The first part, I thought the argumentation, Kwasi, for why British assets were used in this operation, his explanation of what actually has been happening with modern-day piracy on the high seas with Iran, Russia. I have to say I thought it was not just well delivered, but I thought the content was absolutely right.
Whoever drafted the statement, I thought did a very good job. They did. Civil servant, and obviously the minister would have had input. The most important thing he said was that the Americans requested it. Yes. And you and I know that if the Americans request something of the British government, there's no way. I mean, I think Harold Wilson, maybe 50 years ago, said he wasn't going to send troops to Vietnam, but it never happens. And we basically say yes. But what was skillful about Healey's statement was that he didn't mention the Americans. He talked about British interests. He talked about British security. He very graciously said that the Tory government had led the way in terms of supporting Ukraine. So in a statement like that, I mean, you could...
Well, that I think, I mean, I'm going to keep this in two separate parts, if I may.
OK.
You know, the first part on British action, American action, British action today. On that, do we all agree he was solid and good?
Yes, it was a very good statement. I mean, as I said earlier, I felt instinctively comfortable that they were doing the right thing. Having heard the statement, I'm even more certain that
But the point I was trying to make, the viewers should understand, was that it was a very skillful House of Commons statement. It was. Because there are lots of people on his side that are deeply sceptical about the US, deeply sceptical about...
Hence he avoided that.
And so he avoided that. I thought that was very nicely done.
On the second bit, Kwasi, on Ukraine, I mean, there was some nonsense in there, wasn't there? You know, we're leading the push for peace. No, we're not. We're not even involved. And then he boasted about the coalition of the willing. 39 of them in the room. Only 2 are sending
So this
troops.
phrase, I wish it would be better. The coalition of the willing. I mean, you don't have a coalition of the unwilling. I mean, it's a meaningless phrase. And I don't know where it came. I don't know where it came about, but people use it all the time. It doesn't really clarify anything. But what I thought it was a skillful statement in the House was that he was trying to bring all sides and create a kind of consensus. Which I think he did quite effectively.
Well, I think having done the first bit first about allowing the Americans to use assets and supporting them. I mean, Nick, the one thing that struck me last night, looking at the statements that came from Paris, and indeed from what's been said in the House of Commons today, is that actually Britain, the European Union, when it comes to any peace process between Ukraine and Russia, are pretty irrelevant.
Well, I have to be honest with you, I'm pretty sceptical that there's any prospect of peace anytime soon in the Ukraine conflict. I don't know how and when this does possibly come to an end, but I think that the Prime Minister is right, and has been during the course of the last year, to make clear that Britain feels some sense of engagement with this, that European security is our security, that if it's going to be necessary for European troops to go in afterwards, we are going to be part of that. And I think that...
us and the French and nobody else.
No, but it was inevitable.
It's a start. It's a start. I mean, I know as well as you do that one takes a large pinch of salt when listening to this sort of stuff. But it's setting a direction, it's expressing an intent and making a commitment. Now, the Russians say they're not prepared to tolerate European troops in Ukraine. I don't see any way of getting any sort of lasting peace without European troops in Ukraine. I don't think European troops in a buffer zone that possibly grows out of the Donbass region.
Would you be happy if you were in the House of Commons now, and if the proposal was that we and the French... Let's say a peace deal did happen, and I rather agree with you, it looks some way off. Let's just say, hypothetically, peace deal is struck, you get to vote in the House of Commons that we and the French send in peacekeeping troops. Would you vote for that?
Not if it's simply an Anglo-French effort, because we don't, between us, have enough resources to do that.
But let's be real, OK? Someone's going to have to enforce them. If there is a peace deal, and I think I agree with both of you that it's unlikely imminently, but it could happen. If there is a peace deal, that has to be enforced. Someone has to be able to enforce the deal. And now we know where Donald Trump is, and we know that he wants the Europeans to put skin in the game, as it were, in terms of guaranteeing peace. So the Americans, are probably maybe involved, but we can't guarantee that. So once you've taken the Americans out of the picture, who else is there? They're not going to have German troops for lots of reasons in Ukraine. I think that's very unlikely.
Well, no,
and so you're left...
They've been Russia's best client for years.
Well, they're historic...
Well, come on.
There are historic sensitivities about that. So essentially, you've got, by process of elimination, you've got the British and the French. We're the only ones with the capability to be able to drive something.
I think the argument...
It's not exclusively on us,
the argument,
but I think we have to be...
Where I agree with Nick, I don't think we do have the capability right at the moment.
To do it ourselves.
We neither have the manpower nor the kit to do it.
We don't at the moment.
No,
OK,
we've got to take a leading position.
A lot happening.
That's the point, and I think
we will wait for Ambassador Bolton, who hopefully will be here very soon. I have to just say this. I discussed the West Midlands Police. It was truncated, but the West Midlands Police say there's been no conspiracy, and they reiterated the decision to ban Israeli football fans was based on safety. Well, there you are. Let's go to the break. We'll come back, hopefully, with John Bolton.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst we've seen the cold weather affect the UK and much of Western Europe, it's turning less cold in Iberia now, whilst it's increasingly unsettled across southeastern parts of Europe, especially Greece and Turkey, where we'll see strong winds and heavy rain moving through during Thursday and Friday. Italy's on the cold side, temperatures a few degrees below average. Meanwhile, temperatures have now recovered for Spain and Portugal, back up to the double figures or the teens in places.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The cold air remains with us, but add into the mix a deepening area of low pressure. We're going to see all sorts of issues by Thursday night and into Friday morning. Now, one low is departing. A weather front is moving into western parts of the UK. This is containing mostly rain because it's a slice of milder Atlantic air. But as it bumps into the cold air, there could be a few flakes of snow across parts of western Scotland, inland and over hills predominantly. Elsewhere, the rain tends to fizzle away as it moves into central parts of the UK, leaving behind a lot of cloud cover, temperatures overnight dipping generally low single figures or a few degrees below freezing. So still some icy patches, particularly in the east and the north first thing Thursday. And extensive cloud during the morning, some patchy rain and sleet here and there, some further snow coming into Orkney, northeastern parts of Aberdeenshire. But for many, actually, it's a dry start, albeit a grey one with a lot of cloud cover, something a little brighter coming to Northern Ireland, West Wales, into the southwest initially. However, we're already seeing the effects of the next system across Cornwall, western parts of Devon. And this is a developing area of low pressure, named Storm Goretti by the French because of the risk of disruption over northern France from wind. It's likely also to cause impacts across southern parts and central parts of the UK. At first, it'll be rain and wind into the southwest and for parts of Wales that will be an issue, with the strongest winds expected across Cornwall. Amber warning because of the risk of 80 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts. But as it moves across the country Thursday night and into Friday, it will leave behind some deep snow across parts of Wales, particularly mid Wales, the Midlands up towards the Peak District. Then it clears, but it's going to be cold, wet and windy in the east through the day on Friday. Brighter skies on Saturday, plenty of sunshine. Another low turns up on Sunday.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Let's remind ourselves of Trump's position on Greenland.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland.
I'm joined down the line live by Ambassador John Bolton, former National Security Advisor to Donald Trump. John, you have, throughout your long, distinguished career, pushed for America to be strong in every way. And I know there are worries that if Greenland was to get independence from Denmark, there could be Chinese influence, etc. But it is pretty extraordinary for an American president to say, not only do we need Greenland, but we might use force to get it against effectively a NATO member.
Well, that's a very diplomatic way to put what Trump has been saying. Donald Trump didn't discover Greenland. It's been an interest of the United States for a long time. I had my staff research this back in 2019 when Trump first proposed it. It is correct to say Greenland is critical to the security of the United States and to the security of Canada and to the security of Denmark. In fact, to the security of the entire NATO alliance, because what's happening in the Arctic as the ice melts is that Russia and China are becoming much more aggressive. We could contemplate Chinese ships coming through the Bering Strait, across the Arctic Circle, into the North Atlantic, just as an example. So the security of Greenland is important, and there are ways to get to it. What Trump is doing is taking something that's actually easy and making it hard.
Interesting. No, that is a very, very interesting point, and I get the strategic importance of it. John, I know that yourself and the Donald are not best of friends these days, but did he do the right thing? I mean, in removing Maduro, he has removed an ally of Putin and an enemy of the West.
Yeah, look, removal of the Maduro regime was our policy in Trump's first term. It's one of my biggest regrets. We didn't succeed back in 2019 in helping the opposition overthrow the regime. I think it's entirely the right thing to do to capture Maduro, take him to New York and put him on trial. But I know regime change when I see it, and this is not yet regime change. The same people, the same thugs, criminals, people who have invited Russia and Cuba and China and Iran into their country are still in charge. And the opposition, the Democratic opposition, which won the 2024 presidential election in Venezuela that Maduro stole from them, have been pushed aside. So I think the strategy here should be to continue doing what Trump started and finish the overthrow of the regime, give the government of Venezuela back to the people, establish rule of law, and then you'll get foreign investment into Venezuela's oil reserves, which are the largest in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia's by most estimates.
No, it's incredible. John, finally, very quickly, if I may, 36 people have been killed in Iran. The protests have spread now to over half of the provinces of that country. Are we nearer the moment when this ghastly regime falls?
I think we are. I think the regime is extraordinarily unpopular for all kinds of reasons, economic reasons, ethnic reasons. The young people know they could have a different way of life. They're approaching a moment of great tension. When the Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader, dies, he's only the second supreme leader. I think the regime could fragment at the top. I think we in the West should look to the opposition in Iran and say, how can we help? And certainly to keep all of the economic pressure we can on the regime and hopefully see it collapse as soon as possible.
John Bolton, absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed. Well, John Bolton there, advanced in years, but still very on the ball with global affairs. And the one point I want to pick up from that chat was he does say that strategically Greenland really does matter.
Yes, Greenland really does matter. Because of its geographical location. But Greenland and Denmark have made it copiously clear that the US can do what it likes in Greenland in terms of security. Indeed, they used to be there, America, in much greater numbers than they are now. They chose to leave. They would be welcomed back with open arms by Denmark and by Greenland. That isn't really what Donald Trump's interested in. He's interested in American security, not in Greenland's. The reason he wants to take Greenland is, as Ben Wallace put it so clearly on the radio this morning, he wants to steal their oil and mineral resources. And that is the fact of the matter. If it was really about security, he would just establish some decent bases there with the full support of the local population and their government and the Europeans. But that isn't really what he's getting at. So if he were to take it by force, I don't think he will, by the way.
No, I don't.
I think he's softening them up
I don't
to try and bribe them with money.
No, it's clearly a bargaining
It's a bargaining position.
Although you could argue,
He'd do much better to buy the mineral rights. For
Yes.
next
I mean, you could argue that, unlike our government, you know, Donald Trump realises that gas and oil and minerals matter.
Yeah, sure.
And there could be a deal here that's very good for Greenland too.
Yes,
so he's doing what he did with the tariffs. He came in with a maximalist position.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they whittled them down. And actually, all the people I spoke to who were on the other side thought they'd done a great deal. You know, the Indonesians were telling me 19% we've won. And I said, that's only because he started with 32% on the tariff. So he's doing a similar sort of move where he's coming in very, very hard, saying we're going to take it over, and then they'll come to a deal. I think John Bolton's point is right, though, that, and what Nick is saying is true. There's another way of doing it. He could have been much more conciliatory. He could have got them round a table and said, this is what we're going to do.
Bolton said it could be easy making it hard.
But he's making it very hard and very dramatic and doing all the kind of things. Like he's a hustler, a New York property guy, which is what he is.
But I mean, if he did take it by force,
he won't.
That is the end of NATO. It's
right. It's a
and NATO, Nick, that he's made stronger.
But
Trump has made NATO stronger. He's made people pay more money in.
You know, we debate this and we say he's not going to do it, but there's a 5% chance he might.
He might, yes.
And that's his strength.
Yes.
Because if we think that he might, I think people are much more likely to come to the table and cut him a deal which, you know, works.
Yeah, I mean, this is the classic Trump tactic, as you say.
Yes, it is.
It's ask for this, never really mean it, but accept that.
That's right.
And everyone comes out thinking they've done well.
That's right, exactly right.
Just the difference is it's threatening the sovereign territory of a country.
Which is pretty radical.
It's kind of crazy.
I mean, if you were Zelensky and you were talking about America giving you future security guarantees, and at the same time you can hear Trump threatening to invade a NATO sovereign state, you wouldn't put much store in his security guarantees.
I'm going to be very diplomatic and say that Trump's approach is unorthodox. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to be joined in the studio by Simona Braverman, former Home Secretary. We're going to talk about the great Brexit betrayal. Is it really underway? Are the government about to do something that would allow ministers, without even a vote in the House of Commons, to transfer powers?
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates,
lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, Sir Keir, of course, is an absolute member of the metropolitan North London elites who thought Brexit was the most ghastly, awful, monstrous thing that had ever happened, and that everyone who voted for it was a knuckle-dragging racist, and therefore everything must be done to have a second referendum to overturn this great historic mistake. Until, of course, it came to the last general election, where all that went out of the window. And no. I'm Keir Starmer, you can trust me. I'm an ordinary guy. My dad was a tool maker. And you know what? We are not going to backtrack on Brexit. Well, now he is. We're rejoining the Erasmus student exchange scheme, which is great for Europeans, not so great for Brits, at a cost of £8 billion over the next 10 years. But now the one that sort of came out just a few days ago is he's aiming for dynamic alignment. And that effectively means rejoining a single market, even if you don't say you're rejoining a single market. And that then means that rules and regulations on everything from financial services in the City of London to the local corner shop in Croydon, they will be affected by laws proposed by the European Commission, passed by the European Parliament, over which we will have no say whatsoever. But the one that really worries me is joining the European Union's emission trading system and potentially the EU's new tariff, yes, you heard it right, new tariff regime on goods coming in from around the rest of the world. I'm joined by former Home Secretary, devout Brexiteer, Suella Braverman. How serious is this in your view?
Oh, this is the Brexit betrayal, unapologetically, unashamedly, writ large, being led by Keir Starmer. What better way, in his mind, to mark the 10-year anniversary of Brexit than by undoing it? That's what he's probably thinking in Downing Street. And it's a betrayal of the 17.4 million people, patriots, who voted for self-government.
Had the Conservative government actually believed in Brexit, I know one or two of you did, had the Conservative government actually believed in Brexit and taken us away from a massive single market rules, it'd be much, much harder for Keir Starmer here on to follow everything the European Union does. The Tories didn't deliver.
To a degree, I agree with you, Nigel. On the retained EU law, remember that bill that we passed, which was the mechanism that we were going to use to pull away all of the directives and all of the EU law that applies in the UK. We passed the Act of Parliament, but we didn't go far enough, and I will accept that.
And who was the minister? Who was the minister in charge?
Well, I mean, Kwasi will remember.
Brexit Undersecretary.
You were Brexit. I was Brexit Secretary.
Resigned,
I resigned over Brexit.
And I came in.
Theresa Deal.
And the reason,
and wasn't it Kemi Badenoch in the end?
Where she was the secretary, the trade
who said, actually, you know, we can't get rid of all these laws. It's all so complicated.
This is all ancient history almost, but it's important to remember. What happened in the 2017 general election essentially set the path for everything that happened. And you'll remember the Prime Minister at the time, Theresa May, said she was going to extend her majority, strengthen my hand. Do you remember when she said that?
I do.
And then what happened was that she had a tiny majority that just disappeared.
But that's not right, Kwasi, because 2019... when we got the big majority, we really did have the mandate and the ability to pull further back. Listen, there were some good things we did. We did actually come out of free movement, even though we did ruin
but we still got net migration of 1 million under the Boris wave.
I agree, but we've got the mechanism and now we can pull the levers and we could bring it down with the right government. But on EU regulation, we didn't go far enough.
Rather than refighting the civil war that seems to never end, the Conservative Party bores the pants off most of the country. I think the last election result showed that in many, many ways. And before I come to Nick, the argument is that if you'd done anything like you said you'd do and taken us away from single market regulations, it would now be very much harder for the Prime Minister to do what he's doing.
So the vision was that we would start off somewhat aligned and then over time we would develop our own thing. What they're doing now is reversing all of that. Wow. And it's important for viewers to know that this is all part of their strategy to corral the left. They're not really interested in the broad mass of opinion in the country anymore. They're just doubling down on the left wing, Remainer vote in the city, whatever.
Just to hang on to a few seats. Well, you may be right. So, Nick, I mean, you know, I know you're very much more pro that club in Brussels than some of the rest of us around this table. But what about people's faith and belief in voting, whether it's in referendums or general elections? I mean, it's at a pretty low ebb anyway. And what Starmer is doing here is very directly going against what he told the country last year.
I don't think it is. I wish he would. But he set down these...
You wish he would break his promises?
I wish he would go further.
Do you?
And rejoin the EU? I mean, that's your position?
One day, yes. It's not practical or realistic at the moment or in the foreseeable future. Look, we are where we are, and it's been a complete bog-up. And there's a gaping hole in the British economy, and the public are struggling with cost of living. And the reality is that the more we can overcome friction in the border between ourselves and still our biggest market, the better it will be in terms of economic growth and the better it will be in terms of costs. So I don't agree with you. I don't recognise a version of events where we've agreed to sign up to everything. I think he's looking at this very much on a sector-by-sector basis.
On net zero, on energy policy, he's pretty much agreed.
Yes.
Now, you know, if we go along with... I mean, the scales are falling off the eyes of the British public on net zero already. If we have to go further on net zero with more deindustrialisation and yet no vote in Parliament, that doesn't... Whatever your opinion of this, it doesn't work in democratic terms.
I honestly don't recognise quite what you're getting at. If we combine our carbon border adjustment mechanism plans with his, then you're not going to get British exporters having to pay big lump sums at the border. If we're going to have such a system and they're going to have such a system, you might as well put the two together. And this seems to me to be common sense, and in the long run it'll make cheaper electricity prices.
Europe is a diminishing market in the world.
That's exactly right.
It's tiny.
It's tiny. It's
I understand that, but it will still remain a force in global economic... Yes, it is.
Even over the last 10 years, even when we got into...
We all are. The world is changing very fast. But our position in the Wild West world that we're entering is going to be stronger if we've got a market on our doorstep that we're more in tune with.
That's a view. Final quick thought for you, Suella. Do the public care about this?
Listen, I think there are more pressing issues right now, cost of living, migration crisis, but it was a historic vote in 2016. People really voted with their hearts and for the future of our country and for their grandchildren's futures. And for Starmer to be undoing it with this youth mobility scheme, with dynamic alignment, with surrendering our British fishing industry, we haven't talked about that.
You're right.
It's the extinction of our fishing industry, what Starmer is doing. And on net zero, this is undoing Brexit.
The answer is they will care. Thank you, everybody. Coming up next, State of the Nation with Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Jacob, what's coming up this evening?
Well, we're carrying on talking about the extraordinary unpopularity of Sir Keir Starmer, that his poll ratings are now worse than anyone has ever had before, including my old friend Liz Truss. It's an absolutely extraordinary collapse in support, and therefore we've got utter drift. Nothing is happening. The government doesn't know where to go, and the other contenders, the Wes Streetings of this world, don't seem to have the gumption to lay down a challenge. So it just sort of carries on with absolutely nothing happening. And it's impossible, I think, for a government to recover from this position. So we face potentially years of being adrift.
It won't last years, Jacob. He'll be out within 18 months. The government will fall, I'm certain of it. Anyway, there we are. Who am I to say? Let's see what the weather forecast says.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The cold air remains with us, but add into the mix a deepening area of low pressure. We're going to see all sorts of issues by Thursday night and into Friday morning. Now, one low is departing. A weather front is moving into western parts of the UK. This is containing mostly rain because it's a slice of milder Atlantic air. But as it bumps into the cold air, there could be a few flakes of snow across parts of western Scotland, inland and over hills predominantly. Elsewhere, the rain tends to fizzle away as it moves into central parts of the UK, leaving behind a lot of cloud cover. Temperatures overnight dipping generally low single figures or a few degrees below freezing. So still some icy patches, particularly in the east and the north first thing Thursday, and extensive cloud during the morning, some patchy rain and sleet here and there, some further snow coming into Orkney, northeastern parts of Aberdeenshire. But for many, actually, it's a dry start, albeit a grey one with a lot of cloud cover, something a little brighter coming to Northern Ireland, West Wales, into the southwest initially. However, we're already seeing the effects of the next system across Cornwall, western parts of Devon. And this is a developing area of low pressure, named Storm Goretti by the French because of the risk of disruption over northern France from wind. It's likely also to cause impacts across southern parts and central parts of the UK. At first, it will be rain and wind into the southwest and for parts of Wales that will be an issue, with the strongest winds expected across Cornwall. Amber warning because of the risk of